Welcome back to Daytime Ottawa. A lot of us have somebody in our family, perhaps even a friend, someone we know who has lived with cancer, battled cancer, perhaps even suffered from cancer and has passed away. But throughout all of that, it's important to share the stories because it's a conversation that we always want to keep going. There are so many different ways you can support those who have cancer. And Andrew Griffith is our guest today. He actually wrote a book. It is called Living with Cancer, A Journey. And this is really chronicling your journey with cancer, something that you continue to battle. But first of all, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story. This started out as a blog, right? Tell us about the initial stages of your discovery that you had lymphoma.
Well, essentially I discovered that I had a lump in my stomach, and like everybody else, you leave it for a while and then it gets bigger and you say you better look after it. Right. And after about a month or so, I was diagnosed with a form of lymphoma, and this was sort of in June 2009, and then went about 2 weeks later into treatment, chemotherapy, and the rest. And then I had a period of 6 months treatment, recovery, and then I went back to work for about a year and a bit, and then I had relapse, and then I had to go through another treatment cycle in 2011.
And you decided to chronicle your journey through a blog. Why did you decide then to pen a book after that?
Well, the blog started off as a way to let people know, because people always feel awkward about asking about cancer, their rumors and speculation. This is easier to get it out there and let people know what's going on. The book actually came about for two reasons. The first one is I was getting bored because I was in recovery mode. I wasn't well enough to work, but I needed something to do, so it was a way sort of to try and package up and learn about book publishing and the writing process. But as I worked on it longer, I realized it actually was helping me get some sort of closure, personal closure in terms of what I had gone through, and that was part of my life. And that while I never can completely sort of wean myself away from my cancer identity, at least I can push it more to the background by saying, well, it's in there, it doesn't have to be in here.
Right. And speaking on that, how would you suggest people approach and support somebody that's going through their own cancer journey?
Well, first and foremost, it's be there.
Right.
It doesn't really matter how the be there is, but the worst thing that can happen for somebody living with cancer is to fall into that black hole, fall off the cliff, and nobody to contact them. Right. Unfortunately, most of my friends were better than that. But it's really sort of be there, show that you care, and have some awareness and sensitivity that it's a rough period of time. So ask, well, is it okay if I call? Use email, because email sometimes is an easier way for people to accept that. Right. And if they're up to a visit, don't overstay your welcome.
Right.
Ask, is it a good time for me to leave now? And I actually got better sort of saying, well, this has really been great, but I'm starting to fade now, so...
Right. Off you go.
Off you go. And the other thing, building on that, is that because it is an awkward situation for both the cancer patient and the person trying to support them, is you have to have a bit of grace and a bit of forgiveness, because people are going to say the wrong things. But if they say something, it actually is the thought that counts.
Right.
And appreciate that and value that.
And what about the person themselves, the patient, the person who is suffering from cancer? How much should they share with their coworkers, with people around them? Did you find difficulty with that?
Well, I had other experiences in the workplace where people hadn't shared, and there was so much speculation and rumor that I felt it was just unhealthy, and I was leading a team of 100 at the time. So I said, get it out there, set the example. There's no shame in having cancer, and everybody will pick their own level of sharing. But my bias was just to get it out there, not worry about it. And after all, we're sort of living in a Facebook, Twitter universe that privacy is dead anyway. So just be relaxed about it.
How were you as a patient? Did you take action? Were you passive? How would you describe yourself?
As a patient, I think at the beginning I was more on the passive side. I was just under too much shock, depressed somewhat, a bit angry about the whole situation. Yeah. And then as I got over that stage, which eventually I did, I started to become more active. I got to know the medical team, my doctors and my nurses more, so I could ask more questions. I did more research. I knew more about the treatment. Right. So I could start to sort of say, well, you've said this 2 weeks ago, and now you're saying this, what's changed? And so I became more active. Now, I never became quite as active as the title of one book, The Patient from Hell.
Right.
But I think I found the balance between being an informed patient and engaged patient, but not trying to replicate the expertise and the knowledge of my medical team, which I never could do.
Right.
So what did that do for you then as a patient when you took that more active role?
Well, I think one of the things when one becomes a patient is one has to surrender a bit to the process. You know, you're not a victim, but you're not really in control. But I have a bit of a control type personality. So taking a bit more of a role was a way to exercise some control and feel that I was actually doing something as part of the process, of the healing process and the treatment process. So psychologically, it was important to sort of say, well, I'm not just a passive, you know, blob on a hospital bed. I actually have a role to play.
Well, Andrew, we're so thankful for you coming in today and for sharing your story. And we're really happy that you put this all together for others to really go through and experience through your eyes as well, and perhaps learn a few of the things that you've learned along the way. How can people get your book?
It's available on an electronic edition on iBookstore, Amazon, and Kobo. And that's sort of the more cost-effective way to get it.
Okay.
The deluxe collector's edition is available on Lulu, but it's $21. It's a bit more expensive. It's more my personal copy just to have to show.
Right.
Well, thank you so much once again.
Thanks a lot,
Andrew
Andrew.
Griffith. He's the author of Living with Cancer: A Journey. Go check it out. Again, he said it was available electronically, so it's really easy to get.